Hello people, in this video let us look at benign prostatic hyperplasia, the investigations and treatment. Okay, what are we going to look at? Investigations and treatment. See, earlier in the last video, what and all have you looked at? You looked at the zones of prostate. You saw that most commonly this BPH occurs in transitional zone, that is the median lobe or the middle lobe. Okay, that is here in the yellow, which is around your prostatic urethra, right? So this is where the hyperplasia occurs, and there will be compression of this urethra and causing urinary retention, etc. So per rectally, basically you can actually feel the posterior part of the urethra, but you will be able to know if it has become big or small, right? So you saw the why does it happen? Why does it happen? Basically you saw there are two theories. Hormonal theory, basically testosterone becomes dihydrotestosterone, which is more potent, right? But as age progresses, testosterone decreases. When testosterone decreases, estrogen will become slightly more, you can say, than before. So because of that, because of the estrogen, this part which is around the urethra, this part with the transitional zone will undergo hyperplasia, and it will start compressing the urethra. So this happens in old men, isn't it? Men only have prostate. Do women have prostate? No. So because of the hyperplasia of the prostate, what will happen? There can be urinary symptoms. That is, there can be urethral change. There is compressed, elongated, narrow, longitudinal slit type of urethra, right? And there can be changes in the bladder. The bladder's muscle will undergo hyperplasia and hypertrophy. Why? Because the bladder has to compress, right? It has to press and it has to put more pressure to get the urine out. So the muscle becomes more hyperplasia, hypertrophy. There can be a diverticulus like this in the bladder, in which there can be stasis of urine. Because of the stasis of the urine here, there can be stone formation, okay, bladder stones. Then there can also be, because of the all these changes, further up also there can be changes to the ureter and the kidney, okay, further up. So did you understand the secondary effects of BPH, right? So they have shown the same thing here. Now coming to this is normal prostate. In hyperplasia, you can see that the glands are more they're having papillary enfoldings kind of a thing. The stroma is also having hyperplasia, right? You can see all that here, and the secretions inside seem to be more like corpora amyloidosa. They have marked here, right? So what happens in these people? These people will have frequency of urination, urgency of urination, nocturia. They can have hesitancy, that is their they hesitate to pass urine because anyways it's ineffective, because there's an obstruction, right? There can be retention of urine, there can be, what else did you see? Trickling down of urine, right? That is what is the dribbling kind of a thing of urine, because it will kind of dribble, because the internal sphincter will be stretched, okay? So they'll have urinary incontinence, etc. Hematuria is anyways a complication, you don't have to bother much about it. Now this is the IPSS score, that is International Prostate Symptom Score, that is you have seen mild, moderate and severe. And complications of BPH, if you do not pay attention to it, there can be stones, we already told you, diverticuli. It can lead to urinary tract infection, kidney failure, etc. Now, diagnosis of BPH is by one of the things that they are doing initially is per rectal examination. This is clinical. So you will feel smooth elastic enlargement, and you will see that the rectal mucosa is free. But in carcinoma, it will not be like this. It will be hard, and the rectal mucosa cannot be moved. Okay, because it has, the carcinoma would have infiltrated the rectal mucosa. Okay. Then a differential diagnosis for BPH you have seen, guys. What are the differential diagnoses, guys? There could be problems which are constricting the urethra, but as such it is not prostate. Like there can be stricture urethra, there can be tumor in the urinary bladder, there can be carcinoma prostate, yes, obviously that is coming from prostate again. There can be some neurological causes like diabetes, Parkinson's, etc. Tabes means what? Tabes is actually emaciation, but what causes tabes dorsalis? It's untreated syphilis, is it? Then because of the bladder muscle, some idiopathic detrusor activity, bladder neck stenosis, bladder neck hypertrophy. So the neck of the bladder will have issues. So all this we have looked at in the previous video, guys. If you're wondering, then all of it has been covered in this is the bladder, this is the prostatic urethra, this is your prostate, and there could be problem here in the neck of the bladder, or there could be bladder neck hypertrophy or stenosis, okay. Now we have come to investigations. Our main intention of this video is to continue from investigations and treatment, okay. So investigations, you will check the blood, urea and creatinine. Why will you check this? Because you want to check if there is renal failure. If renal failure is there, these two could be elevated, is it? Urea normally how much should it be? Around 15 to, guys, it is 13 to 42 urea, and creatinine 0.6 to 1.1. Okay. So if there is raised levels, it will indicate renal failure, they only are saying. Then you have to remember uroflowmetry you will do, and cystometry. These two are important. Guys, focus here. Uroflowmetry will tell you the flow rate, at what rate the urine is coming out, right? So basically, if it is less than 10 ml per second, less than 10 ml per second for you will indicate that there could be an obstruction. Could be an obstruction only, it is suggestive. But what if the bladder is not contracting? So you need to have the bladder to contract, and still what is coming out is just 10 ml per second. So you do cystometry, you will measure the bladder pressure. So if the bladder pressure is more than 80 centimeter of water, but still the Qmax is less than 10 millimeter of per second, then only you can say that there is BPH. Okay, there could be BPH. This is what you have to remember. Then you can do ultrasound. What will you see in ultrasound? This is actually an IVU, that is an intravenous urogram, is it? So here they are showing you some enlarged median lobe of prostate. Anyways, you can do ultrasound also. Basically, you can check, you can assess the size and weight of prostate. Okay. So how will you know the size? You can do a rectal exam, but also you can do ultrasound and find out how how big is this prostate, right? What is the size of the prostate? You can know in ultrasound. And even weight you can assess, it looks like. Then coming to treatment, we have reached the treatment stage now, guys. Are you awake? What are we looking at? Treatment. Okay, of what? Benign prostatic hypertrophy. What has increased in size? The prostate. So you want to treat it now. How will you treat it? So look at this. So treatment of BPH, guys. Focus here. Yes, there's one thing that in pathogenesis you should look at is, remember the etiopathogenesis there. We have told you the hormonal theory, right? In that what you should understand is, one thing is the estrogen is comparatively more, okay? The other thing is this DTH or DHT, whatever is there, this DHT is the one that makes the prostate increase in size. Okay, this DHT is not good. Testosterone is less, okay, we understand that. Testosterone is less, okay, we understand, but this DTH is the one that has made all this prostate become hyperplasia. So they want to stop this DTH, so they want to stop the conversion of testosterone to DTH. So anyways, testosterone levels also will slightly increase, isn't it? So that is the kind of medical treatment they are looking at. So guys, what is the treatment for BPH? They want to give 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. This will stop the conversion of testosterone to DTH. DTH is the one that is DHT, that is dihydrotestosterone. Is it? This is the one that they don't want, because this is the one that is making the hyperplasia of the prostate apparently. So this is the one, this 5-alpha reductase, they want to stop this. They are giving, what are they giving? Finasteride. Okay, this is something you have to remember. Then alpha blockers you can give like tamsulosin, etc. We'll come to the details. Look at the surgical treatment. You have TURP, then you have TUIP, then they can remove prostatectomy. The newer treatments, you have YAG laser and some stents. Okay, stents are there, intraurethral stents. So anyways, we are looking into details of each of these. Let's get started. But wait, in treatment, there's one table here, overall one treatment method they have given. Other methods used for BPH, they're talking about transurethral incision, that is TUIP, we told you, laser ablation of the prostate, right? Then transurethral microwave therapy is there, microwave therapy is there. Then transurethral needle ablation using high frequency radio waves, radio wave therapy is there. Then TUNA, transurethral needle ablation. N is needle, okay. Then they have high intensity US energy, ultrasound is it? Ultrasound energy, high intensity. Then they're talking about water induced thermotherapy. They are placing a balloon, through a balloon placed in the prostatic urethra. Water induced thermotherapy. So all of this is to reduce the size, is it? Then prostatic stents, then balloon dilatation, okay, of the urethra, I'm guessing. So guys, did you understand that there are a lot of treatments? We will go into the details of few important ones only. Now let's get started with the medical treatment. What happened? bring this. Let's get started with medical treatment. So basically you have understood this, that hypothalamus, pituitary, then testis will make testosterone. Testosterone is converted to DHT by this 5-alpha reductase. We want to stop this one. But whatever has already become DHT, that will still be there. Okay, so this 5-alpha reductase inhibitors will take time to work. That much you have to understand. Okay. So what else are we looking at here? Okay, it's in very small font. So let's increase the font. So this is medical treatment. So basically, if there are not too many symptoms or there is not any complication, nothing so scary, then they can just give a medical treatment. They are saying basically what are they talking about? They're talking about 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, finasteride, finasteride, you can remember. Basically it prevents the hyperplasia of the prostate. It will prevent the hyperplasia because DHT only is required for hyperplasia. No DHT, no hyperplasia. So whatever has happened kind of a thing, right? So it will prevent only. Or I'm thinking further increase in the prostate size. Okay, then coming to the second one here, they are talking about alpha adrenergic blockers. In this you remember one name, tamsulosin. This is actually an alpha some selective, it is selective alpha 1 blocker it is. Okay, tamsulosin. It is selective. So what is it selecting? Give me some bigger font here, please. Focus, guys. Tamsulosin is doing what? It's the most selective alpha 1A blocker. Okay, this is the drug of choice. Drug of choice, is it? No. Nobody said that. But it's most effective. Tamsulosin, alpha 1A blocker. Say it, otherwise you will not remember. Alpha 1A blocker. Tamsulosin. Okay, people who have kidney stones or no elderly male, they'll give this also, so that they can pass more urine, so that they will be able to get the stones out. Then finasteride. Finasteride is what? 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. How much will you give? 5 gram daily for 6 months. Wow. But guys, what is the problem with 5-alpha reductase? Already inhibitor. So already converted DHT will still be there, which can cause hyperplasia, right? So once you are giving this 5-alpha reductase, you have to wait at least 1 month for all DHT to for this to act. Basically, for finasteride to act, it will take more than a month because the already produced DHT will be there. Okay. Now tamsulosin, you have understood. What are the other examples for this alpha adrenergic blockers, guys? Terazosin. So maybe we go with terazosin. So all these names you'll have to remember. Tamsulosin, terazosin, finasteride. Okay, all these 3 names you will write, right? So now let's move on to surgical treatment. Before that, what was this photo? Tamsulosin. Okay. See, they have on this box itself, they have drawn off one prostate kind of a diagram. Okay. Now let us move to surgical treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia. Very good. Take a deep breath, guys. Finally, we have reached the treatment, and which treatment? Surgical treatment, and this is surgery topic. Wow. Great. So now let's go to surgical treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia. Okay. So when will you do the surgery? When will you do the surgery? When medical treatment has failed. Very good. Or there is recurrent UTI, there is, after all this I'm guessing, or there is acute retention of urine, or there is chronic retention of urine of more than some ml, or frequency of urine micturition is so much that it disturbs his normal lifestyle, or there is hematuria, okay, which is very rare actually, by the way. So it's affecting what? The venous plexus and everything. So hematuria is there, they want to consider surgery, guys, okay. Guys, in surgery, actually, there are so many types. Look at the names here. TURP, very important, gold standard, you have to remember that. That is transurethral. They are going via the urethra. Transurethral resection of prostate. Go through the urethra and get all the prostate things out. TURP. Or you will make incisions in the prostate. Transurethral incision of prostate. Or you can do prostatectomy. That is, you will remove the prostate. If it is greater than 75 gram, or if this bladder stone, or there is bladder diverticula, There are some methods called as Freyer's transvesical suprapubic prostatectomy, or Millen's retropubic prostatectomy, Young's perineal prostatectomy, which is obsolete now, so we have made it grey. So you have to remember there are some prostatectomies, that is Freyer's and Millen's, which are in use. That is suprapubic and retropubic. Then newer treatments, you have YAG laser, some intraurethral stents. Okay. Too much, guys. Take a deep breath. Breathe in, breathe out, and let's get started with this transurethral resection of the prostate. Okay. So basically, what are they doing here? They're going via the urethra, they're going here and they're removing all this prostate parts. Transurethral resection of prostate, TURP. What is our resection? Transurethral resection of prostate. This is very popular. So they put a resectoscope through the urethra. Okay, and they will continuously irrigate it with water or glycine. Remember, they will put one resectoscope. They will continuously irrigate it with water or glycine, and they will the prostate is resected into multiple pieces and removed. Okay, why are they doing this irrigation? Because there's a lot of vasculature, they said. Okay, and you will have to use cautery to obtain hemostasis, so that there won't be much bleeding. Okay, so this is a very smooth and very fast. The recovery is very smooth and rapid, they are saying, for this procedure. But the disadvantage is that the water that you give so much can cause something called as a TUP syndrome. Is it? TUR syndrome, sorry. TUR syndrome. This much. TUR syndrome. Because of all the water that you put, it will get into the system of the person and it can cause increased BP, isn't it? So there can be water intoxication, electrolyte imbalance. But did they say BP will become more? No, they didn't say that. But there will be water intoxication and there can be dilutional hyponatremia. Because of so much water, there can be low sodium levels. Okay, which is not actually low sodium, but the water becomes so much more. So it becomes dilutional hyponatremia. Okay. And then what are the other problems with this TURP? If there is diverticuli and stone, you will have to follow up this TURP with litholepaxy. Litholepaxy is crushing of stones in the bladder. Okay. So basically, if there are any stones in the bladder, where is the bladder? Is this the bladder? It looks more like a rectum to me in this case. Now let's say there's a diverticulus and there's a stone there, then you will have to follow up this TURP with some crushing of the stones in the bladder, etc. Okay. I don't know why that's a disadvantage. Anyways, now let us look at this. Transurethral resection of prostate, no suprapubic incision. So you are not doing any incision. You are directly going through an opening that's available. That is your urethra. It's most common popular method. Guys, are you focused? Are you awake? What are we looking at? TURP. What did you learn? What is R? Resection of what? Prostate. Very good. How are you going into that person? Via the urethra. So you're not making any incision. So you just go through the urethra and get all the prostatic tissue out, whatever you want to get out. Especially the transitional zone, isn't it? Isn't that what the word they used? TZ. Yeah, transitional zone, TZ. Okay, let's go back. Where are we? Surgical treatment. Yeah, here. And then, what is the scope you use in this? It's called as a resectoscope. But recurrence may happen. Okay, this is another disadvantage they should have written here. Then, there is something called as a TUR syndrome, right? Water intoxication, dilutional hyponatremia, etc. Then, you will have to keep giving this glycine, right? So that you will have to do irrigation. Continuously you'll have to do. Okay, that is one of the things they are saying. And faster recovery and early discharge is possible. Like we told you, the recovery is smooth and rapid. So this is the resectoscope. Looks like they're putting it in and they're looking at something on the monitor. And what are they showing here? They have removed the fragments of prostate. Can't see much other than a bottle. So if somebody asks you the complication of TURP, you will say, guys, just think. Yes, TUR syndrome, you saw water intoxication and dilutional hyponatremia, yes. So how will you treat water intoxication? You will give diuretic, that is furosemide, very good. There can be retrograde ejaculation. Why does that happen? See, when you do a TURP, you may damage the internal sphincter. So when there is ejaculation, instead of going like this, it can go backwards to the urethra, into the bladder. So that's why they are saying that There can be retrograde ejaculation because of damage to internal sphincter. Because internal sphincter, guys, doesn't have any proper landmark, so they may land up injuring the internal sphincter. But external sphincter apparently has a proper landmark here. So internal sphincter will get damaged. Where is it getting damaged? Internal sphincter. Damage. So there will be retrograde ejaculation. Okay. Then, even alpha blockers that you give in medical management, they also can cause relaxation of the internal sphincter. There can be impotence because of all this, is it? There can be impotence. I'm thinking they damage something else. Because here you know that even the ejaculatory duct and all are opening here. There can be incontinence, that is these people's incontinence problem still continues. Okay. There can be bladder neck stenosis and urethral stricture. So you landed up creating a bladder neck stenosis and probably a stricture in the urethra. So all these are the complications. Look at this post-operative complications of what? TURP, water intoxication. This, yes, you have studied. Water intoxication, yes, because you'll do all the irrigation. So there can be congestive cardiac failure because overload, is it? Volume overload. Hyponatremia, we told you dilutional. Hemorrhage, bleeding, obviously any surgery you will write bleeding. Infection, obviously any surgery you will write hemorrhage, infection. Incontinence, perforation of the bladder. So you went and put this resectoscope so much inside, is it? You perforated the bladder itself or the prostatic capsule itself. Stricture urethra. Okay, that we already said. Retrograde ejaculation, we told you. Impotence, okay. Recurrence. So basically there can be recurrence of the benign prostatic hyperplasia. Okay, very good. So complications of TURP, done. So next one we'll go to TUIP. Superb, guys. Now you have reached the second type of surgical treatment for benign prostatic hyperplasia. Guys, see, instead of removing this prostate and all, you just go and you make some incisions in the prostate. One they are making at 5 o'clock and the one they are making at 7 o'clock. This kind of makes sense to me. So that basically they want to relieve the stress on the urethra. That's it. So they are not removing any prostatic tissue. Just 5 o'clock one and 7 o'clock one, they are putting some incisions. That's it. It kind of makes sense. Kind of symmetrical. What is the time, guys? 4:35. Anyways, it makes no difference to us. Okay, 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Okay, this you can use for prostates which are like only up to like 20 gram, not very huge ones. This is safer than TURP because you're not removing the prostate tissue and not causing some damage to the internal sphincter and causing retrograde ejaculation, impotence, etc. Okay. Transvesical suprapubic prostatectomy. Where exactly are we, people? Do you know where we are? In surgical treatment, now we have reached prostatectomy. In that we have to look at this transvesical suprapubic above the pubic symphysis, is it? Suprapubic prostatectomy. Other one is retropubic prostatectomy. Two prostatectomies you have to look at. They have some specific names also. Look at the photo to understand, guys. This one, what are they saying? Three-way Foley's catheter is used for continuous irrigation after prostatectomy for 1 to 2 days. This is also relying on some irrigation. And this one is talking to you about a large prostate and BPH removed through open suprapubic transvesical approach. See, this, if it is very large only, they're talking about prostatectomy, right? Did you see the indications for prostatectomy? Where is the indications for prostatectomy? Here. See, if size is greater than 75 gram or bladder stone is there or bladder diverticular. So if the size is so huge, they want to do a prostatectomy. Okay. So basically they are going suprapubic. This is also called as some, what is the name? F something. Freyers. Okay. So basically what are they doing? We are not going into the details of this, guys. If you want, you can look at this. Let's move on to retropubic prostatectomy. There is a name for this also, right? Mill something. What is that? Extraperitoneal approach without opening the bladder. Extraperitoneal approach, pushing the bladder to one side and excision of the prostate. Some retropubic. Just remember the approaches, guys. One is suprapubic, one is retropubic. Okay. Then one more you have perineal that we are not doing, so we are not reading about that. So newer treatments you already saw. Holmium YAG laser, intraurethral stents. Intraurethral stents kind of makes sense to me. Just to allow the something that will not get compressed, I'm guessing. right? If they cannot get surgery, you insert something there and leave it, which won't get compressed maybe, right? Okay. Laser you will write for everything. Wherever you have something, no, in that you will add one laser, because laser is like latest or costly, etc. So in this video you have looked at benign prostatic hyperplasia. You looked at the investigations, treatment. Under treatment you looked at medical and surgical. In investigations you saw blood urea, uroflowmetry, cystometry and ultrasound. This is an IVP actually. Sorry, IVU. Intravenous urogram is it. In treatment you saw medical treatment, 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, don't forget inhibitor word, finasteride, and then you have alpha blocker like tamsulosin, you should know these two names, tamsulosin, prazosin, etc. Surgical, TURP, very important. Then you have TUIP, then prostatectomy like Freyer's and Millins. Freyer's is suprapubic, Millins is retropubic, okay. Then newer treatments are the YAG laser, intraurethral stents, etc. Other than that, some extra things we saw here, some needle ablation, ultrasound, microwave therapy they are using, water-induced thermotherapy, they are using everything, sound, ultrasound, heat, thermotherapy, needle ablation, microwaves they are using. That's it. Balloon dilatation also they are trying, okay. So that's it guys. So this is what we have seen in this video on benign prostatic hyperplasia. Bye bye.